PropTech Innovation Challenge. It's really good to have everybody here today. We are going to talk today about data, so it's more of a specific webinar purely about data. And I'm joined today with Lynn Nicholson from HMLR. Lynn, if you want to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm Lynn Nicholson and I'm the Deputy Director for Data here at Land Registry. So later on, I'm going to talk about some of the data that we make available and also probably very lightly touch on some of our challenges that we have over the next few years with the data. So good morning.
Thank you, Lynn. We also have Mark Owen from MHCLG.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm a product manager working on the planning data platform, MHCLG. Looking forward to taking you through the platform a bit later on.
Thanks, Mark. And Dave from Geovation.
Yeah, morning all. I'm Dave Rowe. I'm a full stack developer in the Geovation tech team, and I'll be taking you through some open data sets not covered by the others to hopefully kind of whet your imaginations or inspire a bit of thought.
Thanks, Dave. And we also have Alfie from MHCLG.
Yeah, morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As I'm sure you know, myself and Lou Wellham run things on the MHCLG side for the PropTech team. So just here to help with anything if you've got questions about us.
Thanks, Alfie. So great. Today, the heart of the subject is data, but I'll just do a very, very brief overview of the challenge, where we're at, and then I will hand over to Dave to go through the open data that is available, then HMLR data from Lynn, and the planning data platform from Mark. There's a lot of time for Q&A, so if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We will go through them at the end. So we really want to be able to answer any of the questions you have. Just a quick reminder. So the challenge is about delivering and enabling the delivery of 1.5 million homes. You have until the 15th of June to submit, so 10 days left. The clock is ticking, and make sure that you use the platform. All the information is on the website. Review the previous webinars if you have any questions or any queries, but you can also contact us on challenge@geovation.uk. It's really important for us that you work and deliver at speed. So the timescales of the challenge are really tight. We know that. So we want you to collaborate and co-design and deliver at speed. As I just said, 15th of June, and then there will be a bootcamp mid-July. And the idea is that companies can then start delivering straight away. So without further ado, let's dive into the data, and I hand over to Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to start by doing a small bit of open data signposting. Coming up will be coverage of sort of HMLR data and data available in the planning application. So I don't want to cover anything that they're going to be covering. So just to kind of kick off, we're focusing on open data because the barrier to access is very low. So when we talk about open data, there's obviously a definition up on the screen that says open data is data that anyone can access, use, and share. So by definition, it's very easy it should be easy to get hold of, should be easy to use, and also to get going with actually using it in applications. Some people often think that open data is related to quality. So, open data, poor quality, premium data, high quality. There's not such an obvious link. That the nature of open data and premium data is often to do with cost of maintenance. It might be other reasons, commercial applications of data and non-commercial applications. So really, I want to kind of encourage everyone to think about open data as another source of data that's really rich and powerful. It's not about poor quality data or not poor quality data. So to kick off, obviously being OS-based, Geovation, we host and produce a lot of open data products. Again, these are not premium in the sense that they're paid for, but they are high quality, consistent, definitive, and authoritative data sets. So we have release open data on things like boundaries, so all the LPAs or local authorities, parishes, any kind of boundary line data is released by OS as part of our open boundaries data. We also have other datasets and geographies in the UK that are open, or Great Britain rather. So built up areas is a dataset which provides the actual extents of built up areas, so the real world extent, so not necessarily boundaries in terms of a city's boundaries or local authority boundaries, but built up areas are the actual real extents that have been analysed, which will show settlements and real settlements across Britain. I've listed there things like rivers, roads, and green space. We also have open map local products, and also similarly the OS Open Zoom Stack product, which have huge amounts of layers that give you things like schools, hospitals, railways, buildings, quite often generalized. So for things like buildings, it'll be generalized data, but it does allow you to see the general overview of data across Britain without necessarily getting into the full detail of, the full extent of the buildings or other attributes that are in the more premium data sets. So when I was thinking about what to highlight, obviously there'll be a lot more coming in terms of what's already been built for planning purposes and for ownership processes with HMR. A lot of our driving factor for house building is based on population and projections. So Census 2021 was the last time the ONS obviously aggregated all the population data, and that's a huge data set where you can kind of get the current snapshot of our population, the demographics, numbers of households in different areas, information about those households, so things like access to cars, how many cars per household, that kind of thing. We often talk about access to public transport, but we also need to analyze the access to cars, and in a particular area, whether we think people are going to have access to private driving or need access to public transport. So all that data is available via ONS, but also you've got the projections. So you've got the projections themselves as to what's going to happen. In the example I put on the graph there, by 2047. It should be said projections are not a bit different from forecasts. Projections kind of have a number of assumptions behind them, so they're kind of changing all the time. But ONS do regularly publish projections that allows us to think about either the population, but also the number of households in different areas that we will have. And obviously that will be affected by things like house building. So ideally we would, in some cases, we want to see those projections go up if we have successful drive for house building. I should also say with ONS, there is a geoportal which allows us to get all their census-based areas. So their geographies are things like, if you've heard of LSOAs or output areas, all those are published by the ONS openly on their geoportal. Another data set that we ourselves know quite well because we host it. So OS hosts the British Geological Survey's open data. These are a number of different data sets that are really essential for planners and developers to assess hazards. So things like subsidence, coastal erosion, geohazards, put there like landslides, mining hazards, all the kind of things that become constraints in the kind of development process and house buying process. They're all available. The open data versions, again, are kind of generalized versions. So they might be gridded data. They might be 1 kilometer grids, but they give you an indication of the hazards that may be, the level of hazards in those kind of grids. And it might be that then if you want the more detailed data for, say, a particular development, you need to go directly to BGS for the more detailed data, which might have a cost associated with it. But those open data products are really useful if you're doing assessing hazards in a particular area. It's really important to have the BGS open data as part of that assessment. Next slide. Another data set I kind of think has been a bit foundational for all the challenges we have at the moment. The big kind of, it's not the elephant in the room, but the biggest challenge, the climate challenge, is affecting all our other data sets. So the Met Office have historic observation data, so precipitation, wind, temperature, going back 100 years or so. But they also publish their projections on future climate, There's a number of different projections, so the data can get quite complicated. Sometimes you have to choose different projections and different methodologies, but effectively the data is there to kind of show how the climate is going to change in the future. And this obviously affects things like designing of housing developments and infrastructure and flood defences. Now, the way I say this data is foundational, it already goes into a lot of the data products. So the ones you might see are things like the Environment Agency flood risk data. The latest version of that has been updated to take account of the Met Office climate projections data. Similarly, some of those BGS data sets, so the subsidence susceptibility has been updated to take into account these climate projections. But quite often we have startups that are using this data directly because they need it for a particular use case, or they want to kind of take one data set and apply the climate projections on top of it. So the data is all available and open on the Met Office. It's quite a complicated data set, so you do really need to go into the detail on it. It's going to take a bit of time to kind of work out and work through, but it is an incredibly powerful data set, as I say, being kind of foundational to a lot of others and how we kind of view other data sets. That's a hardly comprehensive one thing I was going to say, but there's lots of data out there. So we'll move on to the other ones, and feel free to query any of those in particular.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll come back to Dave later on. Obviously, all these slides will be available, so you'll have links if you need to. And Dave will very kindly share his email address as well. So if you have more direct questions, you can ask him. Now on to LR data. Lynn, do you want to take us through? Thank you.
I will. Thank you. Thanks, Isabel. Thank you. So right, land registry data. So there's a slight misconception that all we do is register who owns the property. That couldn't be further from the truth. We've got the largest property database in Europe, and we do hold lots and lots more information than just who simply owns it. So we've got a massive database of information. Now, what we've done with that database over the last probably 10 years is lift out what the market believed they would find useful in terms of data publication. So we had a data publication strategy, which we are going to we're going to start again. We did have a data publication program some years ago, and in that program we've managed to publish 14 data sets, which you can see there. I'm just going to very quickly whiz through them. We've paused on that particular program the last few years, and that's because the actual underlying data is not what we would call high quality. So we've set up another program which started on April the 1st, which is looking at transforming our data into a more geospatially enabled information set. But that's a completely different conversation, so I can talk about that another time. But what I wanted to do was talk about the 14 data sets that we do have out there. And like I say, when we do resurrect the data publication program, we will be looking at adding to this. So we're going to be doing a lot of market research soon to say, not only what additional data would be useful to the market, but also the accessibility of this data. So let me just whiz through what data is out there. This is on a gov.uk platform, and that platform's called Use Land and Property Data. So you can go in there and you can download this information. And so the first one is ownership. So we've broken this down into 5 categories. One of them is ownership. So obviously land registry register land and register the owner of that particular property. That's the legal owner of a property. Now, we've been able to publish data sets on a monthly basis. So these data sets are all published and refreshed every month. You can go and download them. One of them is UK companies that own property in England and Wales. So top of the list that the market asked for was could you publish a data set that showed who owned the property? Now, we can't publish private individuals because of data protection regulations, but we could publish whole data sets of properties that were owned by UK companies. And there's another one, overseas companies. So as the name suggests, that's properties that are owned by companies that are registered overseas. So you can go and download those now. So, and then we've got spatial extent data sets. Inspire index polygons and Inspire local land charges spatial data. So Inspire index polygons are all part of the Inspire initiative. So we've released free of charge index polygons that relate to freehold land in England and Wales. So you can go and download those local authority area by local authority area. And then Inspire local land charges spatial data. So we've also got a programme in Land Registry that we've had in existence now for 13 years, would you believe? And that's where we're digitalising all information contained within local authorities around charges and planning applications, etc. And we have digitalised those, and we are publishing certain aspects of that under the Inspire directive. So you can go and look at that. And then, of course, we've got one of our premium services, which is available through Geovation. If you're a Geovation member, you can get access to this. It's the National Polygon Service. Now, I've marked it in red, and you can see there that in the key that anything in red is chargeable, so it's not free. This is our premium service, and this is where you can access it through Geovation, and then you can take out a developer license on it, which is free of charge, and it allows you to use it for 6 months, where you're building up your propositions with your customer base. But that shows all the extents of properties that are registered, and around about 89% of the land is registered. It shows the extent of that registration, and it also shows the title number, and it also, interestingly, contains the UPRN. Now, we have difficulties in Land Registry matching title numbers to UPRNs, because a title could be a lamppost, it could be a farmer's field, it could be a block of flats. So in which case you have the one-to-many or many-to-one match challenges on that. But we are working with GeoPlace to make sure that that's a lot clearer than it currently is at the moment. But so the National Polygon Service contains those 3 files where you've got your polygons, you've got your title numbers and UPRNs, and then another file that you can link to it that shows you whether it's freehold or leasehold. At the moment, that's if somebody wanted to come in and purchase that, it's £20,000 a year to license. So we've also got a lot of price paid information. We've got that was one of the first data sets that we actually published, to be honest. So we first of all started publishing that to Zoopla and Rightmove years and years ago. It was a chargeable data set that we made free of charge probably about 10 years ago now. So that's free of charge, and that shows the price paid data set is a file, a monthly updated file of all residential properties that were sold for full market value. And then additional price paid data set is other information. So it might be that the property wasn't sold for market value for a particular reason, and there's quite a few reasons on that. So we've put that in there as additional. Now, the reason we've split them is because most people just wanted to know about residential properties, so they didn't want all that additional information in there. So we've published it as 2 data sets. The UK House Price Index, we manage that, but it's sort of we supply the information to Office of National Statistics, who publish that on a monthly basis. But that contains our price paid data alongside Scotland and Ireland as well. So over to the right, other registered information. So this is where I just wanted to talk about the misconception around what Land Registry hold. We hold an awful lot of information on the register, and what we publish is only part of that. So we publish registered leases. So if a property is registered leasehold, we publish information in a file every month around those leases that have been registered. So it's the term, the date of that lease, etc. So people have found that incredibly useful. I've marked that in red as well because that's only chargeable. It's free of charge if you're just using it for internal business use, but if you're using it as a commercial data set, then it's chargeable at £5,000 a year. We also publish a data set around restrictive covenants. Now, at the moment, as we stand today, that's not it's not what I would call highly useful, because it's basically a data set to show, it's a spreadsheet to show on these properties there is a restrictive covenant. What we're doing with the new programme that's set up is trying to add more information into that, because restrictive covenants are absolutely instrumental in the house buying and selling process, because it could be a restrictive covenant to not build properties or not sell alcohol, and the weirdest one I've ever seen is you can't conduct witchcraft in the bottom 20 foot of your garden, and that's a real restrictive covenant. So we've got a data set of that. Then the next two, requests for information and transaction data, that's more around publishing information that appeals to the conveyancing world. So this is all around information about applications that have been lodged with Land Registry. So it's where conveyancing firms have had what we call requisitions, and that means that they've lodged something with us, it's not been complete, so we've had to send out a notification to them, or what we call a requisition, to ask for more information. So that's always like a sort of a performance style information around different conveyancing firms. And transaction data is all around information, applications that are supplied to Land Registry. Last but not least is our 1862 Act register. So Land Registry was set up in 1862, and the first iterations of a land register was where people wrote on parchment in big leather-bound ledgers, and they were kept in a storeroom just outside Coventry until and then as we started, as technology took off, and we started to build the land register and then started digitizing it, that became the 1862 register, which was a series of these ledgers, became you know, we didn't use it anymore, obviously. So we've scanned it all. We've scanned all that information inside there. We had a huge project that scanned all that, and you can go in and you can access that as well. So that's more of interest rather than people using it in their business. So that's it in terms of what's out there already. I just wanted to quickly mention that the programme that we've set up is looking at, like I say, making our information geospatial first, but we've got a lot of work to do in terms of modernising that information. We've still got a lot of paper. We've still got a lot of information that's not structured and machine interpretable, and so that's going to be a long programme. But nonetheless, I'm quite excited about working with yourselves to look at how best do we do that. So we've got a very long roadmap for doing that, but that would be really interesting to talk to everybody about what would be useful in that space as well. So that's concluded the Land Registry slide as well. So I'm open to questions if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Lynn. I think we'll take the questions towards the end, if it's okay, so people can absorb everything. I think there's a lot to absorb, and it's a lot of data that is out there and that you've shared with us. So thanks a lot, Lynn. In the meantime, anyone who has questions or thinks about questions, either pop them in the chat or keep them for later. Next on is Mark with the planning data platform. So we will do a little bit of a switch, and Mark, you will be taking over the presentation.
Great. Morning, everyone. There are lots of people working on the planning data program. Today you'll hear from me. My name's Mark. I'm a product manager based in Manchester, working in our consumers team on the planning data platform. There'll be some time for questions at the end, but do also feel free to pop your questions in the chat. So we're the planning data platform, and this is our mission. We make planning and housing data easy to find, use, and trust. There are quite a few problems when facing the challenge of pulling together planning information. Excess time spent hunting through records, checking and validating information, collecting records from disparate sources, pulling together information from various formats and comparing misaligned local constraints. So long time taken to each one, multiply that across how many planners are in the country, and also think about how many other people are doing similar work, analysts in central government, investors, people building apps to make it easier to renovate your house, journalists investigating local issues. It's a lot of time. Time spent on this is an administrative burden, and it's time taken away from everyone making places for people to live. So here are the bites we're taking out of those problems. We're making it easily searchable, planning considerations, data from the authoritative source, available in one place and up to date, and data in modern tools plus links to documents mapped to local areas. So what is quite unique about the way we work is that we have a community of organisations providing planning data from local authorities to government departments and arm's length bodies. We work with them to make it usable. We index planning and housing data from across the country, standardise it, and provide feedback on its quality and make it available to analysts, startups, researchers, and anyone with a need for planning and housing data. And we make that available to a marketplace of people making modern tools and software which can help to speed up the process of placemaking. And this is it. It's real. Data from the platform is powering lots of local authority services through PlanX. It's being used by PropTech and analysts and journalists, and it's feeding into decisions around policy around new towns too. So we have the map. We also have an API, so where you can search the data as a list and through an API. So we have lots of data sets. Some of them provide by over 130 LPAs. Here are some that may be good starting points for some of the problem statements you're working on. And most of the data on the platform is available under the Open Government License, meaning anyone can view, build services using that data, or download and analyze the data to inform planning and other decisions. So this is probably the best place for you to start. We've constructed a quick start guide that is up on our GitHub. So this is to help you get up to speed using planning data. So it has links to our API, our data sets, and other examples of how people have used the data. So things around like the land calculator. Yeah. So again, there's that URL there. So I guess that'll be put in the chat, digitalland.github.io.quickstart. And it also has details on how you can help design our data. So how you can help design data. Our data design team work in the open. You can see what the team is working on at any moment. So by going to design.planning.data.gov, we have nearly 300 considerations on the backlog, and we welcome people getting involved in the design. So here you can comment on them via our GitHub, and you can see what's being worked on now and next. And then once you've had a play about with the API and had a look at the data sets that are available on the platform, we'd love to hear from you. So part of the work I'm working on within the consumers team is how people find our data and how they use it. So any feedback you have, please either get in touch via our website or via this URL.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. So I think we've gone very quickly through all the presentation, which is great, and it gives us a lot of time for Q&A. I'm going to go through a few questions that are in the chat. One to you, Lynn. Can we please have link to HMLR data where if it can be downloaded? So I think that has been done. Do we get any of the premium databases that you mentioned to prepare the application without purchasing the database? If you are part of Geovation, then do have a chat with Caroline, and she will help you out with that. Is there an opportunity, so from Andy, is there an opportunity to work on the raw HMLR data to extract new data products, e.g. finding option agreements? I don't know, Lynn, if you're around. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Right. So this is one of the points I was making earlier, in that none of our data is machine interpretable. So we keep getting asked for options for purchase and those types of entry on the register. So when I spoke about we hold a lot of information on the register, one of them is what we call notices on the register, and those notices contain options for purchase, etc. As we stand today, it's quite a convoluted process for us to be able to extract that information out, because the information is in such a is not modernized in the way we want it to be. In the future, we should be able to just pluck that information out. So that's what we're working on. As we stand today, we could put an SQL through the database and be able to extract what we can, but in terms of us being able to sit behind it as being high quality data, we wouldn't have the same level of confidence that we're hoping to have in the future. But certainly when we looked at the last roadmap for data publications, options to purchase were there right at the top. So when we do spin up that program again, that's probably one of the first things we'll be looking at.
Thank you, Lynn. David is asking, he's interested in match UPRN, postal address, and long data. I know there are restrictions on using postal address, part of this that Royal Mail deals with, but what is my starting point for accessing the rest? I've written to of the partner organization to LR that will distribute this data apparently, but without result. Can you suggest a person I can speak to about this, or a different access pathway? I would probably say speak to Dave.
Yeah, and my email hasn't been put up yet, but it will be. So you can both directly message me or email me on the email address that will come up.
Great, perfect. Thanks, Dave. Any other questions? So there was a question on Geovation and what it means to be part of Geovation. So when you can apply to, or you can just become a member of Geovation, and that will allow you to then have access to the data sets that Lynn mentioned. And Caroline has kindly put the link in the chat, but it's very simple. You go on the Geovation's website and apply to become a member. A question from Delmeza Potter. Are there any plans to make the National Polygon Service free or lower costs?
What we're doing with the national, because I can't emphasize enough, it's a massive data set, and even data savvy organizations, it takes them 6 hours to download it. So what we're doing is we are looking more towards making it more accessible rather than having that data set and making it free of charge. What we're doing is we're looking at a roadmap for that particular service in its own right. So do people actually want access to the whole of England and Wales consistently? I don't think they do. That's not the feedback we're getting. So we're the top of the list seems to be API access into a more current information on that site. So the fact of it is we load that data set up there on the 2nd of every month. A lot of organisations have fed back to us that they would want it more current than that and kept more current than that. So there's all sorts of things on the roadmap, making it more current, having different access to it. Not everybody wants to sit and download a huge data set like that every month, so they want API access into it. So we are looking at how can we break that up as a data set and make it more accessible. I think that's the best way of answering that. And also the market research that we're going to be doing will be informing that roadmap and what we do first.
Thank you, Lynn. A question from Lucy, are these 1.2 million homes, it's actually 1.5, in some particular areas that we are focusing, e.g. north-south of the country, and how these data resources are expected to be used in our innovation and proposal? There's no geographical focus, and the data, when we're doing that data drop-in, because it's really just to open and say that there is data available and to clear any question or allow people to get their questions answered. There's no it's not necessarily part of the answer. So if you feel like you don't want to use any of the data sets that we're talking about today, it's not a requirement. What we require is an answer that is matching the problem statement and that is really going to be delivering value over the next few months. So it's not we're just doing that data webinar just to be helpful and to really share what is out there in terms of data. And also because problem statement 1 is quite, obviously there's a lot of around LR data, and that's why Lynn is kindly coming here. And obviously there's a lot of work that has been done on the data in the planning platform as well. So it's really good that we share that and that you see what is available. Any other questions? So I'm jumping from the Q&A to the chat. There's a question for Mark. Are you able to provide any information on if there is a planned roadmap for planning applications data to be available on planning.data.gov?
There's some work going on at the moment, and I can come back and answer that. I'll go find the answer to that and come back and be back later.
Great, thanks, Mark. Any other question? Looks like we're going through the questions quite quickly. So there's a question from Caroline. Yes, Caroline, do you want to say?
I just noticed there's a question from Robert about access to National Polygon dataset be granted free of charge if we are successful with our submission. So the answer to that, the National Polygon service is available under developer license free of charge for 12 months. And if you're a Geovation member, you can, and if you're not a Geovation member, you can sign up to be a Geovation member and you can have access to it for 12 months. But if that National Polygon service, if you then commercialize the product, then you have to pay the £20,000.
Thanks, Caroline. Always good to clarify. There's a question from Dan. Can any of the proposed solutions use commercially available data? Of course, we are only sharing here data that is available and part of it is commercially available through NPS. Yes, there's plenty of other data sets. We're not going to be necessarily pushing any of the commercially available ones here, but we're not necessarily, it's not an open source, it's not an open data challenge. This is just an enabler. So feel free to use any of the data sets that you think are relevant.
I just wanted to make one last point, Isabel, on the National Project. Yeah. It's not an open data set either. It's not what we would call an open data set with a capital O. And that is because so there are strict licensing terms. So as Caroline's mentioned, there's a developer license on it. There are strict terms and conditions in there in terms of its usage. And that is because there are real high sensitivities with regards to that data set. And I'm obviously not going to go into all of them, but you can identify you can identify vulnerable properties, vulnerable people, etc. through that data set. So we have to protect it. And so we have to protect that. Also national security issues as well. It's not an open data set. So I just wanted to just point that out as well.
Thanks, Lynn. Absolutely. David is asking if anyone is aware of the time to sale data for individual property, e.g. the number of days between the time of a property goes on the market until it officially transacts. Maybe David will come back to you on that. There's also Barrett, thank you for sharing about the one line on question 7. We will definitely look into that. There's a question from Simon around confirming what open source tech data has been used for the planning data platform. That's one for you, Mark.
I could come back to you on that one as well.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Mark. There's a question from James about OS data and clarify what OS data would be available during the challenge period, particularly regarding existing buildings. That's for you, Dave.
Yeah, you can see us. So we have there's sample data available that either OS directly make available anyway, or we can make sample data available via the Geovation exploration license. So feel free to get in contact if you want sort of building sample data. I mean, it goes back also like the point that Lynn made. Making data available either through developer or exploration licenses doesn't make it open, even for the duration of the time we're making it available. It's available to you for specific purposes, but we should say it's not then open even for the duration that you're using it for on a free basis.
Thanks, Dave.
So it is very useful, but we do have to often make that that clear. On it's a non-commercial basis. It's a non-commercial basis.
Thanks, Dave. There's a question from Catherine, which is a non-data related question, but it's about payment and it's about the payment for the challenges, the challenge. So the payment will be made in arrears with in a kind of a minimum of a 2 months cadence. And it will be subject to meeting the milestones that you would have set out in your proposals. So I think that answers your question. I think we're running out of questions now. Any other questions from anyone?
There was one just about, I think, from the planning data, I think was asking about the formats it's available, and I thought it's just worth pointing out that a lot of that data is from other sources. So if it's not available in the format you need it from there, you can often go back to, say, the Environment Agency if you're looking at things like flood risk, and they might maybe have in a different format or different feature service. So by all means, obviously contact Mark, but we can contact us as well if you need to kind of get help in using certain data formats.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. I mean, it's really just to summing up. If you have any questions coming now or later on, do feel free to reach out to either challenge@geovation.uk or our tech team, Dave. I mean, Dave is not the tech team, but part of the tech team. So you can contact Dave direct, and he will either answer or kind of spread within the tech team, or Caroline for more LR related data, and Caroline will answer any question that is related to LR data specifically. So we're here to help you. So we're here to help you either to access data or to, just to discuss any data related questions for the tech and Caroline, but for any kind of more challenge related questions, use the challenge inbox and we will then respond to your questions. We can stop now. It was great to have you here, and please do use the emails I've sent you, or actually Emma has kindly put in the chat. Remember, 15th at midnight BST, so British Standard Time, is the deadline. There will be no extension, so do not come on the 16th saying you haven't applied. It's the 15th at midnight that everything closes. It's important that you have everything in by that time. So you have another 10 days, which is great. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day, and thanks for your time. Thank you, Lynn, Dave, and Mark for your time, and Alfie as well. And thanks for listening in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers all.
Bye.